I'm Chip Freud, and this is the Artist Spotlight, conversations with contemporary artists based on 5 simple questions that explore the artist's journey, creativity, and sources of inspiration. Welcome to another episode of the Artist Spotlight podcast. Today I'm joined by Lindsey Chester. Lindsey works in acrylics, watercolor, and graphite. After a successful career as a fashion designer in New York, Lindsey began her painting journey in 2014. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
As I do on each episode, I always ask the artist, can you tell me a little bit about a project you're currently working on and maybe one you've just recently finished?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask. My current project is trying to figure out how to do a pop-up shop. And so I'm working on getting a point of sale system, working out my booth, working out pricing, working out display. So it kind of sprang out of a series of watercolors that I've been doing that are based in subjects of downtown Cary and a lot of historic buildings. And I thought that they might be a good fit for a pop-up that happens in downtown Cary once a month. So that's my venture, my venture into that whole realm, which is really new for me.
Oh, it is an exciting and interesting realm. I've done a few pop-ups, but mostly the bigger art festivals. But coming up with that whole portable store environment is got a set of challenges to it.
It really is, yeah.
So with that as our premise, or primer on you, let's dive into our 5 questions. And the first one is, what's your earliest memory of making art of any kind?
That's a really good one. When I was a kid, my parents encouraged me in artistic endeavors, and actually my first art was in kindergarten, and my mom framed 3 pieces of art, and actually I have them hanging in my studio now. So she believed in letting me pursue whatever I wanted to do, and she saw some kind of a germ of some kind of artistic talent, and so she framed those, and that really impressed me. That she thought what I did was good and gave me confidence to go on and continue creating.
Oh, what a neat Genesis story, and the fact that you still have the work.
Yes, yes, and they're funny. One is like the little old lady with the who lived in a shoe. It was an illustration of that, like as a kindergartner in crayon, of course. And another was a family illustration. We had a lot of cats, and the cats played very large in the picture. So yeah, so I kept them, and they kind of spur me on even today.
Oh, that's neat. Uh, the theme of an early advocate, for lack of a better description, is one that I've heard come up several times with artists that, often it's a parent, but sometimes it's a teacher that is the one who sees the glowing embers of something there and begin to fan them a bit.
Yeah, my mom even at one point signed me up for some sort of an oil painting class. And literally, I was the littlest person in the room. I was probably in first grade. And I had to borrow a shirt of my dad's to wear as a smock. And even to this day, I wear like a big shirt of my husband's when I paint. That's my smock, right? And my mom had asked the art teacher, could I sign her up? And they said, as if she behaves, if she could be in here and do this, then she belongs here. And I do have that painting as well.
Well, that's cool. So a lot of early encouragement.
Yeah.
So you're currently working across 3 different media, as I understand it.
Mhm.
What brought you to these, and is there one of them in particular that you're particularly drawn to, and why?
Well, it's funny. In college, I just always considered myself a person that was, I guess, a drawer, a drafts person. I don't know what you would call me, but I like to draw with pencil and graphite. And I love drawing the figure. So that's a through point for me. I always come back to figure drawing. I like to sketch outdoors. And of course, everybody has a pencil or a pen or something. So of course, it's availability, right? And then I like acrylics as a paint medium, mainly because the cleanup is easy.
Mhm.
and it's not toxic. And I paint in a converted bedroom in my house. I don't, so, can't really smell up the whole house. And that's why I have not really tried oil painting, except for when I was really younger and painting at an outside kind of studio. And then as far as the watercolors, I really picked up watercolor during COVID. I joined up with a couple of these urban sketcher groups. I'll give a shout out to CAM Raleigh Urban Sketchers. They meet on the second Saturday of every month at CAM, the Contemporary Art Museum. And so initially with them, I was drawing, in a sketchbook, and then I would see other people who would add a little bit of color from watercolors. And I said, I want to try that. So I got myself a little portable watercolor set and really enjoyed it was so easy, to take with me. It was so portable. And so recently, this past fall, I invested in, much better brushes, much better paper. I did all of the, all of the, where you buy into something that you like and start investing in it. And I had a lot of success where if I was posting something, people would buy it right off of my Instagram page. So I was like, well, then I'll keep doing more of that. So I've really found a lot of joy in the watercolors because of the brightness and the intensity and the fluidity of drawing that way. And I find it a really great way for me to integrate my love of architecture and my love of color in a medium that's very portable. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying that. Actually, in the fourth medium, which wasn't on my on your question, was I picked up an iPad. Actually, I didn't pick it up. My husband got me an iPad for my birthday last fall, and I've been doing a lot of art using Procreate, which is a very inexpensive app for your iPad. It's a $10 program. And there's just so much to learn. Like every time I pick it up, I'm learning new things. So I do both outdoor landscapes with that and figure drawing on the iPad. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, you're the second iPad artist I've talked to. The other one was not on a podcast. Dr. Peter Johnson, he had a featured artist at the Cary Gallery of Artists last month, and his art was all done on the iPad.
Right. Yes, I
Don't
did
know if it
see.
was I don't know if it was the same application, but I was just amazed to see what could be done with a stylus and an iPad.
Yeah. But the really neat thing is you can always undo. So there's never a mistake. It's not like when you're painting and you mix that color and it really looks terrible on your canvas. You can just tap it and make it go away and redo it. So it really gives you a lot of options. Yeah, it's a great tool.
Very cool. Very cool. So, what inspires your art? Where does it come from?
That's interesting. Well, anything that I do that's based in Cary is really based on my love of this town. I've lived here for 24 years. I'm fascinated with the comings and goings and the history, as well as kind of the strange architecture. There's some Queen Anne style houses, but there's also some board and batten things, and and there's new architecture that looks old. There's some restaurants and buildings that are iconic because people just love them so much, so that's what inspires me, locally. But I think when I'm out in the world, wherever that is, seeing things a different way, or how you can kind of see something that's ordinary and make it beautiful, I think is something that inspires me. So most of my art is from real life. And I think what people say is like everyone can see, but it's an artist who kind of sees the beauty in the everyday and tries to translate that or transform that for everyone to see it too, I guess is what I would
Mm.
say, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Can you give me an example of something recently where something that others might not have seen or seen the way you saw it that you brought to
Um,
life?
Well, I did, and actually it's not as recently, but right before COVID, I was actually taking a number of pictures. I was doing a lot of sketching when I would be out at like cafes and restaurants and things like that. And I was taking a lot of pictures as inspiration for paintings or sketches later. And then during COVID, what I did is I painted, and of course we are still during COVID, but you know what I mean, during lockdown, I would take these scenes and I would blow them up really big. They were the biggest paintings I ever did. They were like 48 inches wide by 36 inches high. And they were everyday scenes of people that you would kind of take for granted unless you put it up on a wall and painted it. So it would be people sitting down talking on their phones or having a cigarette or talking with their friends or having a beer. And I took the color completely out of these paintings and made them in a muted palette. So
Mm.
some of them were in shades of like sepia or burnt umber, and others were in tones of gray and Prussian blue. Another one I combined some greens and purples for the people, but I basically would mute down the palette so it would have almost a photographic look. And
Mm.
it was just scenes of every day, because I felt like sometimes you have to put what you see every day right up in front of you to actually see it, you know? And so when it was during COVID, we couldn't get together with people. I really liked these paintings that were just filled with people. Yeah.
Reminding us what we were missing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, some of them had as many as 20 people, 20 figures in it. And so that was its own challenge for me.
All right. What advice would you give an artist starting out?
Hmm. Um, Paint what you love. So don't listen to what other people are thinking you should be doing. You should be finding a subject or finding a media that makes you happy first, and then worry about whether it makes other people happy. I don't think you can concentrate on if it's going to sell or not until you find your own voice and your own, you feel confident enough in your technique that then you can put it out there for sale. But I think first you want to build your own, build your voice and build your skill set. And don't be afraid to just go on YouTube or read books and study, or find a mentor, that you can kind of learn from, and never be afraid to ask a question.
Mm. It can sometimes be intimidating when you're first getting going, I would think, to ask the experts, if you will, of you don't want to come across. I know this was my situation when I was just beginning my art career. Of you don't want to sound like a doofus.
Mm. And at the same time, you don't want to constantly be comparing yourself to others,
Yeah.
because you don't know what their journey was. You could be comparing yourself to someone who's been doing oil painting since they were 15 years old, and you've just taken it up 2 years ago. Of course, you're not going to be as good as them, but you've got your own iconography, if you will, or your own style. And, you know, you can only get better by continuing to practice. And I almost take a yoga approach. It's like in yoga, they call everything a practice. I think when you take up a paintbrush or a pencil, you're practicing. And each time you do that, you're better than the last time you did, you know?
That's some sage advice there. A photographer I follow on social media got into this on a YouTube episode that he had, where he was hearing from people, oh, I'm posting and I feel so inadequate compared to, and fill in the blank.
Right.
And his point was, you can't compare yourselves to the landscape photographers that have been doing it for 40 years. And what you're seeing in their Instagram feed is the best of their best of their best. So you're seeing maybe 1 to 5% of the work that they've done.
Hmm. Right.
um, versus you that may have only been doing it for months or a few years. Of course, it's going to be different. So
Right.
you can't use that bar.
Right. I think that's true of all social media to begin with. I
Mm.
think we've all gotten so conditioned. I mean, to the point where the younger generation is almost their whole life is only a social media moment. And I
Mm.
think we all compare ourselves to what people call it like their perfect moment, just like what you were saying. And you don't see the 50 pictures that they threw in the trash, or the canvases that they gessoed over because they weren't up to snuff, and I have to say, sometimes in my feed, I post a lot of works in progress. So people are seeing the flubs and they are seeing the mistakes. But I think that kind of is a little more real anyway.
Mhm.
Like people do want to know when that it didn't go perfectly, right? And that's the only way you're going to learn is also by correcting mistakes and by looking at what other people are doing. So yeah, you can't compare yourself to others. You can just learn from them, but you shouldn't be saying I'm not as good as them or I'll never be as good as them. That's not very helpful.
Kind of self-defeating.
Hmm.
All righty. The last question we wrap up each interview with is, what artist should folks go out and check out? This could be somebody you just discovered, could be somebody you've long admired, living, dead.
Oh my, wow. Well, mostly locally, there's a couple people, and I'll just give some shout outs to a couple people that I really admire here locally. One is an impressionist oil painter. Her name is Susan Hecht. She, I wouldn't say she's self-taught, but it's not like she was an art major in college and art was always her thing. She just studied and studied and learned and eventually had her own gallery and was teaching others and now has gone on to have great success and be represented several places, not just locally in the Triangle, but in Charleston and other places. And her work is all over the place. And she's right here in Cary. She does a great job. She's very helpful to others who want to learn. Another person that I think is really interesting is Linda Starr. She's here in Raleigh. Her work is super whimsical, kind of in that Red Grooms kind of mode where it's kind of fantastical and there's lots of people and it's whimsical. So I really like her work because it's 180 degrees different than what I do, and I admire that. And another person I really admire also here in the Triangle is Ludmila Tomova. She paints in both oil and watercolor and plein air, and her work is super colorful, has an immediacy about it that I really like, that I wish I could bring into my work. Same thing with Susan's too. They both have this very fresh take on their art. So the colors are super clean. The brush strokes are minimal, like they don't overwork something. And that's both of their work inspires me to try to be a little more patient with what I do, not overwork an area. So I would say those are three people that I admire that are in the local area here.
Well, cool. We'll have to definitely go check them out. And as always, all of these recommendations, I'll have links in the show notes for folks, so it makes it easy to go explore them.
Oh, that's great.
And that brings us here to the end. For those interested in learning more about Lindsey's art, you can check out her website at lindseychestersart.com. And you'll also find her art in various establishments in the area, including the Cotton House in downtown Cary. How about Instagram or Facebook? Can they folks find you out there, Lindsey?
Oh, yes. I am Lindsey's Fine Art, and that's Lindsey with an E, Lindsey. Lindsey's Fine Art. Same handle for both Facebook and Instagram. I post frequently. A lot of times they can see some time lapses of me working.
Oh, even better. I love to see the process from artists. All righty. Well, that brings us to the close of another episode of the Artist Spotlight. Tune in next time as we put another artist in the Artist Spotlight. Thank you for joining us. This has been the Artist Spotlight with Chip Freund. Find accompanying blog posts at chipfreundphoto.com/blog, and you may subscribe to our show on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like listening.